What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to your dose of common sense, logic, and reason. As always, thank y'all for joining me today. In this video, I have another episode of Rhetoric, and this would be an example of historical crime, that being Sundown Towns, or also known as Great Towns. Now, the claim on this, well, what are Sundown Towns? Well, back in America's history, when there was real racism going on, when blacks had a real legitimate claim of oppression and being treated like second class citizens, and we had these predominantly white neighborhoods, and a lot of these neighborhoods, these towns, they were hell bent on keeping it that way. So they created these sundown towns, in which they would prevent blacks from coming into their town and migrating and moving to towns, and they would use several different tactics to try to do this. They would create laws, zoning laws, different laws in the town that would prevent blacks from coming. But the predominant way that they were using to prevent this work, these signs, they would put signs at the entry to the city. If you were coming into the city, you would see these signs saying, warning to blacks not to be seen here when the sun went down. Hence where we get the word sundown town. Now, if you were caught black and you were caught in these towns, anything was liable to happen to you. You could be arrested for doing absolutely nothing, just being black in that town after dark. You could be harmed, and you can lose your life. And many people were killed and were arrested and violently attacked because they were in these towns. And during this time, it was travel was very dangerous for black people, because you didn't know where you would end up. You could be arrested or killed for just simply showing up into a town looking for a hotel room, or going to a restaurant and trying to get something to eat. So it was this whole sundown town thing, it was a blight upon American history, no doubt about it. On top of all the other blights on American history, on top of the blights of humanity, and that's all humanity, not just white humanity. So sundown towns, again, they were real, they existed, but it's not like nobody's celebrating them. White people aren't celebrating sundown towns. It's not like they have national parade or a sundown town day. So it doesn't make sense why people would cry about it. But I would say the same thing about sundown towns as I would say about any other race or sorority. Who's being held back from achieving their goals in life because of a sundown town? Some people say that they still exist, and I've seen many articles. I read articles and seen YouTube videos of people making a claim that sundown town really exists. But then when you read these articles, ultimately they all do the exact same thing. They never really give any evidence that they still exist. They will just go on and on about the history of sundown towns, or they will pick a particular town that was known to be a sundown town and they will speak on that, but they wouldn't give you evidence that it's still a sundown town. Or they will pick some town somewhere where a black person was attacked by some white person somewhere, and that will be classified as assuming that it's a sundown town. Or if those towns are still predominantly white, they will assume, well, it's because it's still sundown town. But never any definitive evidence on actually, these towns being sundown. Now, again, as I've said, who in the hell is being held back because of any system? It's sundown town. That's ridiculous. There's no single black person in America can say, hey, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an astronaut, engineer, scientist, I want to be a garbage man, and I can't do that because of sundown town. So it's just historical crime. But you hear all these black people crying about sundown towns, but you know what you don't hear them crying about? These sundown hoods, these sundown housing projects. They don't, and hell, it ain't even sundown, sun up, because niggas are killing 24 hours a day. So it's not even about the sun. Regardless, we more concerned about the history of Sundown Towns, which is basically completely and totally irrelevant today. But meanwhile, these race hustlers, these blacks, they completely ignore these damn hoods and these housing projects in which a black person is vastly more likely to be harmed, which makes absolutely no sense. And I would say that we, black people, we are consistently crying about the irrelevant while ignoring the absolute relevant today. Now, again, do these sundown towns exist? I'm pretty sure they are. I mean, I've always said about the KKK. They are a complete shell of what they used to be. No doubt about it. They are nowhere near what they used to be, but they still exist. And I'm pretty sure there's some backwater town somewhere where a bunch of the people there are pro KKK. They don't want blacks in their town. You know what I'm saying? But it ain't a sundown town where they're killing people or arresting people if they're found there. But I'm pretty sure it exists. However, again, it's so irrelevant. Why are we worrying about the nonsense? Again, how can we as black people continue to cry about the irrelevant while ignoring the relevant? Is beyond me, but what we do. The fact of the matter is that sundown towns are a joke and it's not even worthy to worry about. Now, should we forget history? Of course not. I've never ever been a person who advocated forgetting history. But again, we don't dwell on history neither. You can't dwell on history as well. And with black people, we tend to dwell on history, and one of our biggest downfalls. But anyway, if you ever hear any cries of sundown towns, well, now you know, and knowing is half the battle. And as always, until next time.